In the winter of 1959, somewhere deep in the northern Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union, 9 young people vanished under circumstances so disturbing, so inexplicable, that 6 decades of investigation have failed to produce a satisfying answer. What happened on that frozen slope has become one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries in modern history. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. The year is 1959. In the industrial city of Sverdlovsk, a group of young hikers and ski enthusiasts gather with a bold and ambitious plan. They are students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Experienced, passionate, fearless. Their leader is 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, a gifted engineering student known for his intense focus and deep love of the outdoors. He has organized multiple expeditions before. This one he has planned meticulously. The goal, to reach Mount Otorten in the northern Urals, a Grade 3 route, the highest winter difficulty classification in the Soviet Union. The group includes 9 others: Zinaida Kolmogorova, 22, bright and athletic, described by those who knew her as radiant with energy; Rustem Slobodin, 23, a mechanical engineer with steady nerves; Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, close friends who shared a love of campfire songs; Alexander Zolotaryov, 37, the oldest, a former military man and experienced hiker, joining them for the first time; Lyudmila Dubinina, 20 years old, passionate and determined; and Nicholas Thibault Brignolel and Alexander Kolevatov, both in their early 20s. Together they were 10. One would turn back early due to illness and survive. The other 9 would not return. On January 25, 1959, the group departed Sverdlovsk by train. The early days were filled with warmth and camaraderie. They sang songs, shared food, laughed under the pale winter sky. They documented everything: dozens of photographs taken of smiling faces, gear spread across the snow, tents erected in the forest. These photographs would later become some of the most studied images in the history of unsolved mysteries. By January 28th, they had reached Ivdel, and from there traveled north by truck to the small settlement of Vizhai, the last outpost of civilization before the wilderness swallowed them completely. From Vizhai, they entered the forest on foot. The temperatures were already brutal, -20, -30 degrees Celsius. The kind of cold that enters your lungs like broken glass. The kind that makes exposed skin frost within seconds. Despite the conditions, the group moved steadily. They knew the risks. They had done this before. On January 31st, they reached the edge of the highland. They cached surplus food and equipment at the forest line, planning to collect it on their return. Then they pushed forward. February 1st, 1959, the group began ascending the slope of Kholat Syakhl. In the Mansi language, the indigenous people of this region, the name means dead mountain. It was a name the hikers knew, a name that, in retrospect, feels unbearably prophetic. The weather deteriorated sharply that afternoon. Wind speeds increased, visibility dropped. In Dyatlov's final journal entries, the tone shifts. The cold is described with growing seriousness. The slope steeper than expected. The conditions worsening. The plan had been to cross the mountain and camp on the other side, sheltered from the wind. But the storm came faster than anticipated. Rather than retreat to the tree line, just 1.5 kilometers away, Dyatlov made the decision to pitch their tent directly on the open slope. That night, the night of February 1st into February 2nd, something happened inside and around that tent. Something so sudden, so overwhelming, so terrifying that all 9 hikers tore through the fabric walls and fled into the darkness, barefoot, in their underwear, into temperatures of -25 degrees or colder, into a raging snowstorm, in total darkness. They left everything behind: their food, their warm clothing, their boots, their axes and knives, every piece of survival equipment abandoned inside that tent. None of them ever came back for it. Days passed, then weeks. The group had been due to send a telegram from Vizhai on February 12th. When no message arrived, families began to worry. By February 20th, the worry had become alarm. A search and rescue operation was organized, led by fellow students and faculty from the Polytechnic Institute. The Soviet military also dispatched units. on February 26, 1959, the searchers found the tent. It sat there on the open slope of Kholat, half buried under snow. The fabric had been slashed open from the inside, cut with a knife by those desperate to escape. The tent was still partially standing. Personal items were visible within, no sign of anyone. The searchers followed a trail of footprints leading away from the tent down the slope toward the tree line. Bare feet and socked feet, side by side, no panic in the stride. They walked, calmly, together, into the freezing dark. At the edge of the forest, beneath a large Siberian cedar tree, they found the first two bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, both in their underwear, both frozen solid. Their hands bore evidence of trying to climb the tree. Bark stripped away, skin torn on branches. A small fire had been attempted at the base. It had died. 300 meters further up the slope, they found Igor Dyatlov, lying on his back, arms slightly raised, face directed toward the tent, as if trying to return when the cold overtook him. Nearby, Zinaida Kolmogorova. Her posture suggested she had been crawling back toward the tent, defying the cold until the last moment. Between them, Rustem Slobodin. His skull bore a small fracture. The official determination, hypothermia. The remaining four were not discovered until May, when the melting snow revealed them hidden beneath several meters of frozen sediment in a ravine. What the searchers found there would transform a tragic accident into something far darker. Lyudmila Dubenina was found kneeling against a rock ledge, her face pressed against it. Her tongue, her eyes, and the soft tissue of her face were missing. Not decomposed, missing. Nicolas Thibault Brignolel had massive skull fractures, the kind produced by tremendous blunt force trauma comparable to a car accident. Yet there was no external wound, no bruising of the skin, as if the force had come from within or from a pressure so immense it crushed bone without tearing flesh. Alexander Zolotaryov had multiple fractured ribs on both sides of his chest. Bilateral breaks, again without major external trauma. His eyes were also missing. The medical examiners were shaken. These injuries were inconsistent with any known natural cause. The force required was extreme, the absence of external bruising medically inexplicable. Further analysis revealed trace amounts of radioactive contamination on the clothing of several hikers, unexplained. The Soviet investigation into the deaths was opened and then quietly shut down. The official conclusion: the hikers died as a result of an unknown compelling force. That phrase became the most famous and most unsatisfying verdict in Soviet legal history. Files were classified, families were told to stop asking questions. Witnesses reported being warned directly by KGB agents. The case was closed. The mountain kept its secret. Over the following decades, a landscape of theories emerged, some rational, some terrifying. The most widely accepted modern theory is an avalanche, specifically a slab avalanche, a dense shelf of compressed snow capable of detaching silently and with devastating force. It could explain the tent cut from the inside. It could explain the blunt force trauma. But critics point to the problems. The slope angle was too gentle. No avalanche debris was documented. The footprints leaving the tent were calm and orderly, and no avalanche explains the missing soft tissue. The radioactive contamination, the bilateral crushing injuries without external bruising. Another theory involves infrasound, low-frequency sound waves produced by wind interacting with mountain topography. Inaudible to human ears, infrasound can induce panic, paranoia, disorientation, and the overwhelming sensation of a hostile presence nearby. The specific geography of Kholat, some researchers believe, could generate these waves under certain conditions, triggering a mass psychological response that drove the hikers into the fatal cold. Then there is the military theory. The Ural region in 1959 was an active zone for Soviet weapons testing. Several witnesses reported glowing orange spheres in the night sky above the northern Urals in early February of that year. The hikers' own diary notes in the days before their deaths, the appearance of strange lights in the sky. Could they have witnessed something classified? Could they have been silenced because of what they saw? No theory has ever accounted for all the evidence. Every explanation leaves something unexplained. Every answer raises new questions. In 2019, the Russian government reopened the Dyatlov Pass case. The new investigation concluded, again, that the cause was an avalanche. Again, many researchers and family members rejected it as incomplete, as another attempt to close a door that refuses to stay shut. The 9 hikers are buried today in Yekaterinburg, in a cemetery that has become a place of quiet pilgrimage. Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Rustem Slobodin, Yuri Doroshenko, Yuri Krivonishenko, Lyudmila Dubinina, Nicholas Thibault Brignolel, Alexander Zolotaryov, Alexander Kolevatov. The mountain pass where they died was named after their leader. Dyatlov Pass. It sits there still, remote, silent, exposed to the howling Ural wind, snow-covered, immovable. Every year, hikers retrace their route. They stand where the tent once stood. They look down the slope toward the tree line, following footprints no longer there. They try to understand. They do not. Some mysteries are not puzzles waiting to be solved. Some are wounds in the fabric of the world, openings through which something cold and incomprehensible gazes back. The 9 set out on a winter morning, young and full of life, singing songs on a train heading north. They were never coming home, and whatever waited for them in the dark on that frozen slope, whatever unknown compelling force rose against them in the early hours of February 2nd, 1959, it has never been given a name, and perhaps it never will.